morning and welcome to Tuesday 10 at 10. I'm your host, Richard Charpentier, and today we'll be answering questions from you, the bakers, that we go through BAKERpedia. And we'll go and one by one and try to answer them like we've been doing every Tuesday. So for those watching it for the first time, welcome and please be a member with BAKERpedia. And I haven't said it in a while. It's free to join. It doesn't require a credit card to join, and it's a great source of information and resources for education and free education. And Dr. Lynn Carson's putting lots of great information there that you can, on a click of a button, and find any information that sometimes when we're talking through it, often it's there already for people to go read through. So on top of what we're talking about here today, it's great to go back and check and validate other, paper, or you can print. So anyway, let's get started. So first question today, somebody is asking us what enzyme would be best for extending the shelf life of a non-proof bread product made with water, butter, cheese, flour, and salt. So basically, it's just a type of a cracker, right? When you think about it, it has no yeast, but they want to get extension, so or shelf life extension. So for a product like that, it's very difficult because you're not looking for volume. So that's one of the products that I would say, again, not knowing the formulation, but proteases and amylases together. But and again, it's difficult to say which enzyme because each enzyme manufacturer has slightly different specification. Enzyme, if you think about an amylase, that could be a 1,6, meaning it cleaves certain specific strand of your carbohydrate. Different proteases function at different temperature. So it's very difficult to really say, use that and it's going to work. It doesn't work really like that. So, and a product like that, you could get away with probably proteases. Proteases are basically very aggressive. They'll cut all the protein. That might help you out. But I will give you an example. Playing with enzyme when I used to work for a large company, and we did work with enzyme. It took us about, I would say, of vetting and sorting through the different vendors and different enzymes that work best. Took us about 6 months of R&D work. So and I wish we could have just put it in and said done and walk away. But doing work with enzyme, and if you want to do it well, I recommend taking the time to understand what happens to your shelf life, what happens to the product over time, and not do it one time, because one time it could be a fluke. You want to do it several times and validate that it works with your environment, with your flour, with your water, and within your your environment. So, but that was a good question. And going back to BAKERpedia, go to BAKERpedia. There's lots of great information on the enzymes, a different type of enzymes, sort of usage rate. So and as Dr. Lin too has been talking a lot about enzymes and a lot of segments and videos you can find on shelf life extension. So thank you for watching. Next question: how to increase the shelf life of cookies and cakes without changing the quality? Well, it's a very good question. I get that a lot as a consultant, for baking innovation. I get a lot of people say, "Hey, I'm trying to increase the shelf life, but I don't want to change anything." In one way, it's sort of a quick analogy. It's almost as if you say, "Hey, I make the same amount of money, but I want to have $1 million saved in the next 10 years." Well, you're going to have to give something up. You're going to have to start putting $5 every day. I don't know in 10 years to do the math, but a certain amount every day on the side in order to be able to have $1 million. Same thing here. You want to get extended shelf life, but you don't want to change the quality of your product. Quality is something that you define for your product and your customers. So it's always good to have an understanding, as in the industry, we call it the gold standard. What's your gold standard? What is the best cake or the best cookie you can make? what's the criteria making it the best or the premium. And then from there, once you have established a criteria for your gold standard, then the next thing is start extending shelf life. And shelf life often will come with a change in your quality. But then I'm not there to tell you what percent of changes, because that's what you're going to have to do as you do the testing and validation and understand how far you're changing it. For example, if you have a product with a 6 month shelf life, we've actually ran a test which was done in a Twinkie. And if you see going the original Twinkie, which was about 3 to 4 days shelf life, to now about 60 days, is the cake, the original cake that we started with, the same exact cake that is at 60 days? No, because you have to add preservation system, sodium propionate, potassium sorbate. You have to change your water activity. You have to add different humectant and hydrocolloids to change the product, in order to have the right shelf life. And that's where, you will have to accept, as for everyone, and I tell that to all my customers, as you change your shelf life, you have to also understand that your product will change slightly. How much, nobody knows until you start doing the work for it. Because a cookie is a little easier than a cake, because a cookie contains a lower water activity, and a cookie, playing with it, you're going to have to, play with different sugars to create pliability. You're gonna have to play, maybe with some enzymes. I've done that. Which enzyme? It's gonna be, some testing and validation. And when you do cakes, we're talking sponge cake, you're talking cupcakes, you're talking what kind of cake and formulation you're talking about, and then you formulate around it to ensure that your product can last the shelf life you're targeting. But I try to answer as best as I could within a very short question. It was a loaded question, so I hope it was useful for you. So moving on to the last question of the day: how to analyze yeast quality. We are interested in testing for yeast activity. We do currently have a fermentograph, but would like to know if there are other equipment available for testing. So just, analyze yeast quality. There's a lot of equipment doing that. And actually, going back, there's something on Ask Dr. Lynn. There's on the page about yeast, analyze yeast quality. She has an article on BAKERpedia, so go check it out. It's very useful, and it talks about the different equipment as well. But overall, in the case of a fermentograph, it basically measures the carbon dioxide activity on a continuous way. So usually those type of equipment are very controlled. It's small, sort of a tabletop, and then you would put dough and you will ferment it. You have to follow sometimes the American Association of Cereal Chemists for the US type of testing protocol. Then you will put it through. The machine will record either a displacement, and they have different styles of machine to ensure is your yeast the same gassing power or leavening power as the other one. And it's a great way to work for your system. And you also want to make sure you find a machine that, if you have different flour stream or different flour styles that you're using, that it works well with different types of flour. So in order to pick the right machine to get your yeast, analyze your yeast quality, it takes, maybe doing some research. Takes time to find out who's using what, and also the frequency in which you're going to use it, and what's your end product, and what are you really trying to measure other than the yeast quality, because often it's very done within a parameters where you can control certain things. But other machines that can be done using that, we have the fermentograph, we have the risograph, we have the maturograph, we have the fermentometer, and the gasograph. So all of those are basically applying same technology, same principle as the fermenter graph is to record a continuous carbon dioxide activity within yeast. So that's it. I will wrap it up. So thank you again for another great Tuesday 10 at 10. And I will see you next week, and happy baking.